Welcome to the Voss of Reason podcast, where practice leaders, healthcare experts, and real conversations come together. Brought to you by AstraZeneca Health 360.
For providers to know that the struggle is real. The struggle is so common.
Enormous.
And you're not there alone. And there are organizations like this one that can come in, not judge, look at you and go, I know how you feel.
Absolutely. We've been there.
I know where the skeletons are that you hid under the pile of paperwork.
And I had a lot. They just fell out and hit the floor. Click, 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 clack, click, clickety, clack.
But honestly, it allows you to then come in and say, we know how to fix this. We can help.
And it is so intimidating to take that first step. Mm-hmm. But I think if you take that first step and say, okay, there are people out there that want the same thing, that are in the same boat, that are just as intimidated to ask that first question, then you can realize, wow, I don't have to go to another intimidating, difficult source to try to figure things out, that we are actually in the same boat.
Yep.
And it is actually feasible because we're reading the same lines on the same page. We're living this, even if it's in different small towns or different cities.
Yep.
Sure.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I had a great conversation with two of our nurse practitioners just this week. They were speculating how to accommodate a certain patient demographic that has to be seen within a certain time frame, OB patients. And I said, how about we get together, the three of us, and we do some strategy and talk through it, and we determine when is the best time, what days would be the best days, how many patients can you see in and out, all of those things. And her response to that, one of them said, oh my God, I would love that. And so getting the provider involved in their own strategy is also such an advantage.
It is.
When you're trying to elevate the practice, grow the practice, and support the provider.
And the provider knows the ins and outs of the patient care and what's feasible and what's not.
That's right.
The provider just needs the support to be able to build the structure around the visits or the requirements or what's required of this patient demographic. So it's so collaborative, and it's nice to know that they weren't told that this is what it was, the way it was going to be, but they were allowed to become part of the decision making.
Absolutely. And their clinical expertise is part of that decision.
Yes.
It's never just operations coming in and saying, okay, this is what needs to be handed down, although that has been my experience in healthcare operations and was for many years. But over time, we've seen that there's a much greater response and engagement when the provider and their clinical expertise is also part of the decision-making process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the component of compliance.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh.
That's right.
The word compliance. It is so true.
And you hear it all over the place, but what exactly is it, right?
It?
And I like to wait. There's the compliance that's just, let's be honest, it's noise. Someone with a clipboard needs to say this word so they can justify their, six-figure
clickety clack.
position. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's the compliance of, look, orange is not in my color wheel, nor is horizontal stripes, and it's not in yours. So let's make sure we do X, Y, and Z.
That's right.
And just ensuring, there's a saying in rev cycle which is, just because you build it and got paid doesn't mean you were supposed to.
Gosh.
So especially even in rev cycle, there's a lot of compliance, just like in HR or business, where there's just a lot of things you have to make sure that even though in theory, as a provider, the math, and it sounds good for the patient, compliance-wise, it's like, no, let's not get arrested or have an audit today.
Well, and in medicine, we have the standard of care that we are, need to uphold. And I think that when it comes to understanding the other components of the industry, compliance is huge. I mean, whether we like it or not, it's there. And it changes so much. So why not partner with someone who can really just assist to make it happen and make it not a difficult part of the day. Otherwise, it can detract from your quality of daytime enjoying your life. And it doesn't have to. It could be just handled by the experts who can look down and forecast and see what the changes are, and then can implement the changes that need to happen, and it can be done so seamlessly.
The noise drowns out the patients for you.
Yes, it does.
That is a real big challenge in revenue cycle, is getting practices, administrators, and providers to focus on the actual fires and problems that need to be addressed. There's always a lot of noise, there's always fires, there's always problems, but some of them are more significant and will bring, let's say, a positive cash flow impact before others. So getting people to focus on the things that really are impactful is hard because
we don't know what's impactful.
It goes back to that trust, right? How many times have you been to the conference with the talking head talking theory, and then you come back to your office and be like, so I heard this new term, or I have this white paper.
She's never heard that before. I've never ever done that with a list.
And administrators across the country just fell on the ground in shock.
Yeah. Well, Christy described it as drinking from a fire hose every day for the first year.
Well, I'll add to that. It's drinking from a fire hose while treading water in the deep end of a swimming pool.
It is. And we kept unearthing one thing, and then I said, girl, you're gonna have some whiplash, because her head kept like whiplashing back, and I
kept saying, what?
And she goes, did that really happen? I said, well, yeah, for the past 25 years, and I said at some point, I said we should just all fall on the floor and just sit back up.
That's right.
Because it's true. Like it is. If you say it, it probably happened, and it is true.
Look, nothing shocks me anymore, with outrageous ARs to crazy staff stories to insane vendors. I mean, it's at the point that the clients that really know me know that it takes a lot for me to even raise an eyebrow. And if I'm panicking, that's when you need to panic and run, because at that point it's bad.
It's bad,
so
and you've
bad.
got whiplash.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right.
Oh man.
I had an addictionologist teach me how to, the quickest way to assist someone in cognitive shifting, back when I was a therapist. And so the first way is to hypnotize them. Of course, I'm not a hypnotist, so that wasn't going to work. But the second way was to ask questions.
Okay.
And in fact, he used to say, if you're making more than one or two statements in a session, you're not serving the patient.
Okay.
So instead, just start to ask questions. So I started to use that in my healthcare administration practices. And when meeting with physicians, one of the things that I recognized was the effectiveness of being able to ask questions. They would spout off an assumption usually about the question. They would answer, and then I would slip them a paper with the real number. And it was so effective to see their mind shift based on data. And that
versus
to
assumption.
me, exactly.
Yeah.
And that to me is another benefit of having an RCM partner, because you're constantly looking at the data that is driving.
But
revenue.
also the willingness to grow.
Yeah.
Look at the growth that happens when you shift from just thinking you want to do something on assumption to doing something based on data. There's a huge amount of growth.
Yep.
And I think that the willingness to grow is the first step.
Absolutely.
I think even giving providers the confidence to believe that they can grow.
Yes.
Because there's so many years of just hard knocks and bad mistakes, or like you said, horror stories of vendors, that you really start to second guess your decision making as a provider. Am I cut out for this? Is everybody out to get me? And you don't have that confidence. So with data, correct and trustworthy partners that can say, look, we have you. Here's what you can do. Here's how you do it. You build back that confidence, which, a lot of providers, some of the most brilliant people I know, but they just don't believe in themselves.
And one of the things I wonder whether I'm allowed to spill one of our little secrets is how cleverly you have put that concept together with revenue cycle along with our electronic health records.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, is that okay? Is that just fairy dust? Are we talking fairy dust, or is that like a real thing? I mean, out with it.
Christy, you got to play around with it today. So one of the things
yes, it
that
was
we've
awesome.
done for our clients, and it's a really frustrating venture for any provider going out on their own, is you just type in EHR and there's all these ads that pop up and websites, and all of them you go to look at
Promises.
and prompts like, just give us your basic contact information, and then you're going to get harassed over and over and over again, and it's
text,
irritating. And again, if you don't know what's really important in an EHR or a billing platform, and you have very little confidence because you've been burned before, look, these EHR guys are like the car salesman of healthcare.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
Yeah.
And they will try and sell you a jalopy
Yes.
when you're trying to look for a BMW.
Yeah.
So one thing I did very
We've
early...
had a few.
We got a current
We've had
jalopy.
some jalopy. Horse and buggy.
an orange Ford Pinto with the bottom rusted out, right?
Granada.
We've been there.
Explosive engine.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a few of those. But what I did realize early on is one of the ways that to maximize revenue is to have a good system, an efficient EHR with a billing platform that actually had analytics that gave you that data that was worth something. Because look, there's a lot of EHRs that'll give you a report, but it doesn't say anything.
No.
And I've seen so many EHRs that I'll ask a client like, hey, what do you have? And there's a list of about 5. If they list them off, I cringe as much as my Botox face will let me. They're just horrible.
Well, it's going to cost you more Botox when you look at what they have out there. But what's really horrible is that we're paying so much for EHR. It's about as bad as the insurance companies doing what they're doing to our reimbursement is what the EHRs are doing. Using compliance as an excuse to charge us these massive amounts, which is basically our profits, our little little profits. They're just skimming that off to their revenues, and they're not really feeding us what we need. They're unusable. There are too many bells and whistles. They're cloaked in compliance. And really, what I really like is that you've simplified it to create a very useful product that you have access to, so that if we have an upgrade down the road, instead of being reactive and saying, oh, was this put into our EHR? Well, it actually has been, and our billing company has taken care of it, and our revenue cycle has done this, and we are not even worried about it because we're off to the races.
And I made a decision early on that we would just provide that to our clients, because in the end, it made sense for us to manage, clean up, improve those KPIs. So instead of having a practice in that terrible Ford Pinto, we're putting you in a 911 Porsche.
Excuse me. Let's not skip over that, because that statement just now was huge.
Yeah.
You're going to provide that
Yes.
to your practice.
Yeah.
So you
Let that sink
combine,
in.
Yeah.
Sink that in.
RCM and an EHR that works with the RCM.
So no more
Brilliant.
having to pay for the claims, no more having to pay for the clearinghouse that still to this day no one really knows what the clearinghouse is for, why we have to pay for it, and why don't we call it a cash grab. But we just cover the cost of the billing platform so that we run the claims through it and you don't have to pay for all those extra costs.
Okay, wait. I think we have to put an exclamation mark at every point of this statement, and I think you need to say this again in many parts so that people like me can actually understand this, because I'm feeling like this is fairy dust, and that Christy's having trouble opening up the bottle of the fairy dust. So I want to hear it again. I want it to just dribble on me like this, like woo, and then I want to feel this moment.
The paper claim.
Yeah, I want to.
gotcha.
Okay, I'm going to sit here and hear you say this in detail and just feel the fairy dust.
Who knew that the combination of RCM and EHR together would bring such joy and ecstasy to
And I'm just one of
because it's
the tip of the iceberg here. So
It is a big cost for a lot of practices that usually they at best have a mediocre system.
That's right.
They may not even know that it's mediocre. So because all we do is RCM, it was very easy to evaluate which system is easiest for practices staff to learn. And Christy, you're a good test subject. Today, you got in and it was so intuitive. You were just clicking around and finding
That's
things
right.
without me even telling you.
Very user-friendly.
And a lot of people will probably go, well, okay, fine. What's the catch? Why?
that's what
we
we
say
said that. Where's the catch?
Going back to what we were saying, when you have a revenue cycle partner that is not stuck in one little geographic area, essentially, I have a very nice contract with my EHR billing system that allows me to offer it and not break the bank, essentially. So we carry the cost of it. You get access to it. That means if you want to put your appointment scheduling in it, great. You want to do your insurance eligibility benefit checking, which you got another hour. I can tell you why that's so important in your life. The claims and everything. And the other nice thing is, and this is another difference between, kind of the standard revenue cycle companies out there. You have 24/7 access to your data at all times. You're not getting reports at the end of the month.
Real-time dashboard.
Real-time
Oh my gosh.
dashboards that down to
Real-time.
Real-time dashboard.
with
oh my gosh.
I know people
Can I just do this?
people were excited about line graphs and pie charts today.
Oh my gosh.
Made my day.
I
Our
know.
manager of finance
Yes.
literally screamed.
She did. She cheered.
It's amazing.
Louder than she usually does?
Louder than she usually
I mean, the fact that she's like, you mean I can run a report on, I need to see payments that were $512.04. I can actually type in that exact amount and it'll pull up any payment of that exact to the penny amount. Not all systems have that capability. That's why when I found this, it's like, this is what we stick with, this is what we offer, this is what we operate in. And it's fully cloud-based. It works on any type of computer. As a provider, if you do your charting in it, the really cool thing is there's apps for your Android or your iPhone to show you your schedules, and it has real-time KPI indicators.
Oh, wow.
That you can just, let's say it's 12:01 in the morning, you can't sleep, and you want to know what your gross, your revenue realization rate
So
is.
I can take off a day next week with my kids?
If you can
because
get-
I want the freedom to be there for my family?
Oh yeah, if you can get cell service on the beach, you can take your laptop and look.
How about in Iceland, on a glacier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just bring
Get
back
you
the
more fairy
skincare.
dust.
Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, and a lot of times providers are like, okay, all right, what's the thing? What's it? Look,
I'm telling you, that's exactly what we were like.
I know
Yeah.
After
it
we
happens
got off
every
the phone
time.
with you, we're looking at each other like, okay, look,
That's why
we know this is not going to go down like this.
I was like, okay, I was like, what? Okay, what? That's why we're like, We are having a
Yeah.
real life podcast with Ethne, with the real team.
That's right.
Because it is not fairy dust. It is
right. Yeah.
real, as solid and real as we are here, with no fairy dust.
Yep.
It is real.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I had a philosophy early on that it's just, I'm going to have the providers and understand their personalities and their needs, and we will fit in with your practice. We will become part of your team. So it's almost as if we're staff available to you, which means then there needed to be a system that was seamless between everybody. And that has really worked well. It also means that, you'll never ever see me or anyone in my RCM team come into any practice and say, this is the way it must be. Unless it's decreed by Medicare and I want to keep everyone out of jail. Of course. Right.
Yeah. Well, please do that too.
Yeah, of course. Again, orange is not my color.
No. And I think that what's really exciting about that is that we can now see our freedom at like a light at the end of the tunnel. We can also look at tailoring our practice needs, because the electronic health, the EHR that you've combined so uniquely with the revenue cycle, can be tailored to so many different practice types.
Yes.
And then what's really nice is that reactivity, that being reactive to changes, can really become proactive, because you now have access to make the changes needed, whether it has to do maybe with a modifier or a change in code or down code. We began with down coding. And how do we handle that if we know that that's on down in the future? Well, now we have a true partner who's going to say, let's look at the way your practice is structured so that with these changes in the future, we can now anticipate. And working with you and the fact that we have our revenue cycle combined with our electronic health records, let's make the necessary modifications so that you don't lose.
Yep. A perfect example that happened today is in looking at the system, the conversation arose about the fee schedules. A lot of billing systems and EHRs, you have to, and in fact, the one that you were just in, you had to manually key in the CPT code. And then you'd have to key in a dollar amount. And the challenge with that is that those dollar amounts change. And sometimes they change a couple times in a year if you're not on top of it. And what happens over time, and what your finance manager said is, I was just keying in what I had told to key in from whoever was here before me, and that was the way it was done.
It's typical.
Well, lo and behold, when we started looking into your old system, it's like, you're under billing. Not down coding, but under billing.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's so painful.
Because surprise, surprise, if the insurance fee schedule says that they'll pay you $150, but you only bill them $100, guess what? They're not going to come with an extra check for $50. They're going to go, here's your 100, sucker.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, can I just be a little provocative here and say, this is a women-run, women-owned business all the way around.
It is.
And Ethne, as a woman, you have been so practical and so flexible and forward-thinking. And could I just celebrate women here?
Absolutely.
This is awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things I've been so proud of with my company is that, most, if not all of my employees are moms.
Yeah.
And I've always had a philosophy of it's hard enough to be a mom and to try and hold down a job and have a career, and allowing, for example, my staff, we have a philosophy of family first. The
same
billing
here.
will be there.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to go get your kids. That's fine. I'm going to give you some flexibility and not give you a guilt trip. We don't need that. We guilt ourselves into too many things as is.
Isn't that the truth?
Yep.
Well, we've had a family first policy, and it's been over the years, if someone's kiddo is sick, they need to take off. That comes first. We've never guilted them. And to be able to make up that time is really where, the production and the lapse in production has come in. So time lost as a physician is very expensive. But if we can put family first and make up that time and realize that the changes that are ongoing in the RCM industry and the electronic health records are now combined, I think that takes a huge pressure off of us, because now we don't have to worry about that piece. And our freedom and our ability to live flexible lives and be available for that family first philosophy now becomes a little more tangible.
It does. And, again, when you're in a reactive mode and you are stressed from the moment you wake up, dreading looking at those emails on your phone, dreading how many text messages and problems before you even walk through the door for work. And then while you're at work, you're trying to put all those fires out, stress about what's for dinner and everything else you have to do. To be able to come in and take some of that stress away, it makes you a more present, happy individual all the way around.
And that's the goal, is to be more present and more happy. And once again, that's what family first means.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's no point in being home and stressed and not fun to be around.
Oh yeah, I know.
Been there.
Been there.
Sorry,
there.
kids.
Lived there for a large chunk of my life.
Yep.
So.
But it also means that it's like, it's not bad to raise the flag and say, I need help, because especially in this MSO, we've all seen it, we've all lived it, and we know. It's not simply we're just talking theory or throwing a bunch of letters and acronyms out, but we know.
Well, and what's really exciting about this is that the MSO is, it starts with needing your revenue cycle and then your EHR, electronic health records combined. But what happens after you get this process well-oiled and working? We can now branch into other areas like developing our medical aesthetic platform or doing the fun stuff we've always wanted to do. How do you learn the Botox filler, med spa, laser part of things when you've been running around trying to get your EHR and your revenue cycle? Well, we have a lot of other goodies in that area. For instance, we have vendor relationships that enable more cost-effective purchasing of our overhead for the med spa, medical aesthetic piece. And so allowing the time and the freedom and the added revenue to be able to build a different sector of your practice, as opposed to just staying in that same old rut. Now we can learn new things and we can deliver new therapies and have many parts of the practice now functioning really well with providers, and being able to add on that new provider that can continue a lot of the services that is not just depending on you as a physician. So practice growth. So I really think starting with a good revenue cycle, electronic health records, being able to entertain the idea of diversification into the health, wellness, medical aesthetic space, and then being able to ask yourself, how do I do this? This is an uphill curve. We have those facilities as well. A little more fairy dust sprinkled into the MSO, a little more of the goodies, the secrets and the surprises that we would like to share.
Absolutely. If anything, it's decision support. Yes. I want to do these things. Is this a good idea? What do you think? Is this equipment worth the money? Is it not?
Yeah, and huge questions. Yeah, the equipment, is it worth the money? I've been into many scenarios regarding, what is the pro forma for this service line? And being able to speak to those pro formas and these service lines is another area of business development that we can offer in this MSO, as well as training and training in skills, as well as training in leasing and business support. So many areas. I think that this has been more than dynamic. I mean, Ethne, thank you for traveling 1,000,000 miles. And Christy, thank you for moving 1,000,000 miles to serve us so well here in the Wiregrass. And our listeners, I mean, I can't thank you enough for being there, being present, and being open-minded to entertain and possibly think about what the future may bring. So thank you, everyone, for your time.
Absolutely.
Loved it. It was fun.
It was fun.
You've been listening to the Voss of Reason podcast, brought to you by AstraZeneca Health 360, where women's wellness comes full circle. To learn more about how our MSO supports physicians in private practice, visit AstraZenecaMSO.com, because better care starts with better conversations.